welcome to another episode of The Mum Show. Coming up on today's show, we are talking about kids with attitude, and we're joined by singer Hope Plum. So get yourselves comfortable, grab a cup of tea, and let's start the show. Another episode of The Mum Show. I'm joined again by Pastor Claire Hooper, child therapist Emma Brown, and welcome back Hope Plum, singer, mum, and joy to be around.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And on today's show, we are talking about kids with attitude. Thank you both for the demonstration there. Well, you belong on the stage. Although I do think it's good to notice that we're not saying necessarily bad attitude.
No, not at all.
I think it's kids with attitude, and I find this an interesting path to walk along as a mum of very energetic, flamboyant children. In fact, I remember going to my daughter's school assembly and I watched the whole thing, and my eyes did not come off of that stage. And I thought, she is witty, she is funny, she is spontaneous, she is just like, this whole show is better because she is in it. Like, I was like, this is awesome.
Proud mummy.
Oh, so proud. I thought she was great and she was so spontaneous. And at the end, my phone became like overrun with text messages from other parents. Marina, don't worry about Lilia today. It was all right. It's going to be okay. They all get like that sometimes.
Whoa.
Next message. Don't worry, they all have those moments, Marina.
No.
To this day, I have no idea what they're talking about. And I was like, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to respond to that.
I
Because
really thought you were going to say they were amazing. She was so good. She was the star of the show.
But she just wasn't very good at conforming. She was just like, she just marches to her own drum.
Good.
She's one of these kids
exactly.
and she's one of these kids where she used to say, Mummy, what I do in school is when all the children are leaving the assembly to go into the classroom, I hit the floor and pretend I need the toilet, or like pretend I'm doing up my shoe. They all go into the class and I spin around and dance for a few minutes and then I go and join them all. So I just make sure I get lost.
Amazing.
And I'm like, but she is also the child that I would have constant conversations about just not being calm enough, just not being compliant enough. And I think we have a thin line between positive attitude over compliance.
Right.
But I think that's easier to work with in some ways. It's very easy if you've got a confident kid with attitude and opinions to actually help them build good character than it is to have a child that lacks confidence. I don't know whether it's...
What age do you think that this kind of attitude tends to come out? You know,
that's a good question.
Yeah, because I'd be really interested to kind of hear it, because from my point of view, it feels a little bit like a developmental stage. And so I would kind of want to reassure lots of parents out there, particularly if you've got kids that are kind of approaching like 9, 10, 11, that kind of, is it the tweens that we call them?
Yeah.
Approaching that where they're starting to be much more kind of looking outwards, much more kind of maybe allowing outside influences, listening to how their friends speak, often imitating maybe TV shows that they've seen, because that can be a huge influence, can't it? And then we just start to hear this kind of back chat or kind of attitude where, hang on, lady, who are you talking to? But it is actually a really almost quite a normal stage in a kid's development.
Definitely.
So, but what I'm wondering, it sounds to me like we're kind of thinking about it in terms of, is it a personality thing? Is it linked to confidence?
Well, just last night, it was a really hot day yesterday, so I had that dilemma of what do the kids wear when it comes to going to bed? Like, do I get rid of the duvet and they're just in the sheet or whatever? So I said, kids, just wear your pants. That's fine. And my little boy Archie he just takes his time. He just rolls on the floor in his room, just like there's no hurry. But I was like, Do you know what I mean? 7:30, and I want them in bed at 7 because I know they'll be asleep for 7:30. They need 12 hours sleep. So I was kind of like, Archie, what are you doing? The girls were out cleaning their teeth. I'm like, Archie, what are you doing? All you've got to do tonight is take your clothes off. You don't even have to put other clothes on. I said, I think my words were, you don't even have to get dressed. And Coco, his twin, who's 6, went, Mummy, we're not getting dressed, are we? Because we took our clothes off and we're not putting any on. And I just, like, I was kind of walking away when she kind of, we're not getting dressed. And I just turned around and went, please don't talk to Mummy like that. Like, it's just, and then I kind of had a moment where I was like, why did that trigger me?
It's true.
But I just thought, part of me was like, you're 6. If you're like that now, let's add 10 years. We are. But also, I like the fire.
Yeah.
I can't deny that. I'm
Yeah,
glad
I
she's
know.
not kind of mousy and doesn't ever say anything. Like she does give me attitude. She's me. That's what worries me. Is that I see this thing and I'm like, oh, that's me. So I slightly worry a little bit, but I think, I think it must be a personality thing. It's just she's got this. I call it sass. My girls have got sass. It's this kind of like.
I wonder where they get it from.
But it's so curious. It's hard, isn't it? Because as parents, we have got that pull. It almost like holding those two positions at the same time with it. There's like, oh, I really kind of admire that in you, and actually, you go, girl.
Yeah.
But at the same time, oh, hang on a minute. I'm your parent. You've spent. I've kind of tried to instill this, you know, that I say something and you respect me, and it's kind of about that mutual respect, isn't it?
Interestingly, Emma, I feel as you're talking, I feel like when she says it to me, when she used that attitude to me and corrected me, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But if somebody else said something to her that was wrong, I would want her to stand up and
Exactly
say,
what I was thinking.
and say, actually, that's not right.
Because you want her to have the boundaries, you just don't want to put any between you.
Yeah.
You just don't want to have to respect them too much yourself. You know, it's uncomfortable, isn't it, when your child sets a boundary for you and you're like, hang on a minute, I'm in charge here, I'm the powerful one here. But then at the same time, you do want them to be empowered to do it themselves.
I think I always wonder what the root is of it. What it's motivated from, because it's great to have that attitude. All 3 of my children, my parents' evenings usually go like this. Yeah, they over contribute in the classroom. They're very opinionated. I'm going, yeah, that's my child. It's the big deal. Like they're gonna like rule something. No, but it's the motivation, isn't it? Which is what you're not always sure of in that moment. Are they saying it out of a place of confidence and assurance that they know you and that they're comfortable around you? Or are they saying it because they've got some sort of separation or bad attitude towards you? And I think that there's a tone you can tell the difference between. I think that's what God's looking for us in as well. Our character. Like we can have a boldness. Matthew 5, Jesus talks about us him setting us on a lampstand so we're supposed to shine. Like sometimes I think as Christians and believers, we often find it easier to go, well, I've got to die so everybody just sees Jesus. And absolutely right, we want to reflect Jesus, but it's us that we can't hide and disappear. We have to be ourselves. He wants to set us up to shine. And so it's that fine line between it being all about me. I want to get my opinion across. I want this. Between God saying, actually, these are the characteristics that I want you to shine. I think that's the difference, isn't it?
So it's like Jesus turns the tables over in the temple, and he's doing that for all the pure motives, but it doesn't mean we can just go around turning tables.
Absolutely, you can't just go in.
Can't just go around behaving like that.
Oh, imagine that. I'm just gonna because Jesus did it. Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's got to be the right heart behind it.
Yeah, sometimes the bad attitude or the attitude that we see and the behaviour that we see isn't always, like you say, about kind of, it's not always coming from a positive confidence. Let's just see what happens place. It could be a signal of something else. So we're absolutely right to look and to question what's behind this behaviour, what's going on for my child right now, why are they trying to push my buttons, why am I feeling triggered, and it has to start with us, hasn't it? We've got to think about why does that trigger? Why does that particular behaviour or that particular way of speaking to me trigger this response where I just want to kind of shut it down or react in a way, when actually taking a step back, you know, we do want our children to feel able to say what they need and to kind of stand up for themselves. There's a slight difference though, isn't there? And I think we need to understand the many different causes as to why our children behave in this way. It could be the kind of normal developmental stage. It could be born out of a frustration. It could be that they're feeling unfairly treated, and they're feeling like maybe their sibling is getting, you know, kind of more favourably treated. It could be that they have a behaviour and they get a certain reaction from you. And so actually to get that reaction again and again and again, so that it then could become a learnt behaviour, because actually for children, that kind of getting even negative attention, as we know, is preferable to kind of being ignored or to not getting that attention. So I do think we need to really kind of step back and think, what is going on here? Why? If you feel that your child has suddenly, or perhaps it's been a bit of a slow burn, bit of a slow burn with kind of the attitude building up over a number of weeks or months, it's really important to kind of look beyond that and see what is going on. And it may even be something outside the family home that's causing stress and anxiety.
Oh, totally. My daughter would be like that. I know when she's anxious, because that's what happens. She gets like, her voice gets a little bit louder, the doors slam a little bit more, things become a little bit, she talks to me a little bit. I say to her, I'm not your mate, I'm your mum. You know, like, I'm not your friend in the school playground. And I always know when we reach that point, what is going on? What's the underlying? And it's sometimes it's time to pause, isn't it? And connect with them again and find out, where's that coming from?
And sometimes it's just the essential needs, isn't it? I mean, my daughter, this week we've been having just her up late at night, up very early in the morning, so there's no thing. So yesterday morning she was literally grunting at me when I was having to tell her to get out of bed. She's like, meh. I'm like, but what is that? What is that? And so I really, for me, that triggers me because I'm not good in the morning. And I'm like, I don't need you grunt. I don't want to be growled at. That's really frustrating. But the night before she went to bed, so last night, I was really playful with her. And I was tickling her and she was rolling upside down and we were just having some cuddles and a laugh and we were being playful. And I got into bed with her and I said, I want you to sleep and I don't want to be spoken to like that in the morning again, because how you treated me actually really, really stresses me out and it sets me up for a bad day and I can't go there. So this morning I woke her up and she did the grunting and the growling and I just walked out the room and I said, your clothes are here. And I just left her to it and she came out and she just went, sorry. And I thought, do you know what, actually, that wasn't a major issue to deal with, but probably the worst thing I could do is deal with it in the moment.
That's so important.
But it's
when you exactly like you say, why am I being triggered? What is it about this that makes me want to react that way? And actually, I need to get way better at that, at just taking a beat. And doing exactly what you two just did and going.
I often talk about pressing the pause button for ourselves, but that takes practice, because everything that we do, sometimes everything that we do is automatic, isn't it? We just react, and actually we need to respond instead of react. We need to kind of be thoughtful in our responses. We need to try and stay within our kind of upstairs brain, green zone, what we call kind of, because sometimes when our kids are trying to goad us and they know us so well, they know exactly which buttons to press. And sometimes we absolutely need to walk away and say, do you know what? I know that if I react in this situation, this is going to blow up and it's going to cause a much bigger situation. So exactly what you did this morning. If you'd have stayed in that room, you'd have probably got in touch with a lot of frustration.
My bad attitude would come out.
Absolutely, and we do. We need to look at ourselves, don't we? And what is the attitude that we're bringing to this relationship?
I've got some. No, go on.
I'm so sorry.
You do it.
You know what you said? I just want to go back to what you said about sometimes it's the bare essentials.
Yes.
And I think that's so, we can't downplay that too much. Are they hungry? Are they tired? Are they just those really basic human needs? Is it is the attitude coming from one of those? And actually, again, going back to the triggers, I find that in those moments when my children are tired, I feel awful about it because I've not put them to bed on time.
Oh, that's
you know?
Right.
And so all that
so
comes
right.
into play where you're,
so
it is a cycle where I'm like, I'm rushing you into bed because I know you need your sleep, but I'm rushing you, so I'm snapping at you, and you're now playing up to that, and it's just this vicious cycle of...
So true. I feel bad because you're shouting at me because you're too tired, but it's my fault you're too tired because I've kept you up late and got you up early. It's so true. I'm glad you butted in for that. I've got some great kids for you to meet. beat when it comes to attitude. These girls are fantastic. So let's have a listen to what the children have to say.
Mum, Joy Kids, action! I think the boss in my house is Vienna. What's my problem?
What makes her the boss?
If she doesn't get her own way, then she throws a tantrum. Yeah. Or I get a straw of groups and just whack them. Oh yeah, Harmony put ice down her t-shirt this morning and she started hitting her with some straws. When I get really mad, I throw a tantrum and like stomp like this. When I get really mad, I roll my eyes. When I get mad, I do this. I do this.
What things happen at home that stress you out?
The things that stress me out at home is me tidying my bedroom. Me have to do stuff for Harmony. What? Things that stress me out is when it's lunchtime and you forgot to eat. When you want to get some more stuff, you can't. You know what I mean? Yeah, no, I don't get what you mean, but yeah. No. Oh yeah, you can't get a snack. Yeah. It's been past lunchtime.
What do you think a good attitude is?
A good attitude is like if you lose something in a game, you don't throw a tantrum and you congratulate the other person. Well, I don't even have the best attitude, so I really don't know. Me either.
What does it mean to have a bad attitude to your mum and dad?
Oh, so how about the attitude to mum and dad? You throw tantrums, you like to hit them. No, you don't like to, but you hit them. No, that's what I do. I shake them around. You shout at them. Or you just start crying and throw a tantrum.
When you're crying and screaming in a tantrum, or you're hitting, or you're shouting, or you're really upset, what does that feel like inside?
When you're crying and throwing a tantrum, you feel really done inside, like sad and fed up, and you feel bad. You start to feel bad because you know you've done something wrong. You get annoyed with the other people. You feel like you just feel like like an idiot.
Describe to me what it looked like in your house when everyone's in a good place.
Oh, everyone's playing together, no one's crying. Ooh, when you're all like not in a good attitude, you all feel calm, you're all playing together. You feel happy and you play with other people.
That's amazing.
I never get tired of watching those girls.
They're three sisters, aren't they?
Yes, yeah, they are.
I just wanted to go back to the point that I was making about the bare essentials. I was trying to say, and then when we were watching the VTR, I remembered what it was. The word is halt. Okay. So if you're having a reaction to something, or your child is having a reaction to something, remember halt. So it's are you hungry? Are you angry? Are you lonely? Are you tired?
Ah, good.
Yeah.
Halt.
Great.
Halt.
Halt.
Let me think. Just halt.
Yeah.
Halt.
Good.
That's great.
That's a really good, another strategy to kind of stay in the green zone, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's it.
And kind of, press that pause and halt. I love it.
I love it because they actually mention food, don't they?
Yeah.
They actually mention food. I think it'd be really interesting for some parents if we have a little look about how to respond and if we can give any good strategies, because there are mum wins that we found in this, because we all deal with bad attitudes and we'll all have some mum wins that we can go into, and it's interesting because I think Jesus models really well, doesn't he? Because he isn't timid, he isn't nervous to do something. No. He will say and do what needs to be said and done, but he models absolute humility and he models care and love and compassion and servanthood. And somehow we've got to communicate to our kids that we want you to be full of passion and fire, but we also want you to model we need to mould them to be able to hold themselves in these ways.
Yeah, I've got a really good attitude, a parenting attitude to think about if it's okay, because it's something that I use a lot with the families that I work with. I work with children who no longer live with their birth families, who have either been adopted or have kind of been removed because of kind of abuse or neglect. And it's by a psychologist called Dan Hughes, and he has talked about the attitude of place. And each letter stands for a different kind of attitude that we should adopt within our approach with our children. So the P, is being playful. And I know that this really works, particularly with grumpy teenagers.
Oh, yeah.
So if my daughter, and I think what's important is you've got to really know your child to know whether this is kind of going to work or not. But most children respond to being a bit playful.
Yeah.
So when it's just like a little bit of attitude, you could just, literally, who do you think you're talking to, lady? And doing it in a voice that isn't kind of angry or aggressive or confrontational, but it's just kind of like
Break the ice.
breaks the ice, absolutely. So being playful, and we can all do that as parents.
Absolutely.
The L is love, obviously that kind of goes without saying, just shower our kids with love. Where are we? The A is acceptance. So that's about kind of really accepting the position that your child is in right now. Again, it's like the halt stuff. Where is my child at right now? What's behind this behaviour? Where are they at? And that's kind of really accepting that, and sometimes verbalising that for them. I can see that you're in this place right now. The C is curiosity. So when your child is kind of like throwing this attitude at you, it's kind of like, be curious with them about what's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on right now with you? I'm just wondering whether you've had a bit of a bad day, or something happened, and take a not knowing stance, because that often really helps a child to kind of like, because they're expecting you to perhaps jump into I'm the authority, what I say go, is kind of just take a more curious position with them. And then the E is the empathy. It's like, I can really see that you're struggling right now. Do you know what? I'm just going to give you a few minutes, because I need a few minutes, because I know that if we continue this conversation, it might end up somewhere where we're both going to say things we regret. So I'm just going to take some time out. So just remember that place. It's a really, really good attitude.
It's a really empowering thing to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes in those moments as parents, we're afraid to coach our children and teach them about good behaviour. I don't think I've used it that specifically, but I do, as you're saying, I'm like, oh yeah, I want to do that, that is that, I want to do that, is that. And one of the phrases that we use in our house, especially when the kids are beginning to have attitude with each other, is I'll just shout from another room, be kinder than you feel. Just be kinder than you feel. And like my husband laughs because he sometimes goes away and he says, what would Claire say? Be kinder than you feel. It says in 2 Peter this as well, which is always a great, Paul's words are always wonderful, aren't they? So it says, shall I lift it up? Sorry. So don't lose a minute in building on what you've been given, complementing your basic faith with good character, spiritual understanding, alert discipline, passionate patience, reverent wonder, warm friendliness, which is my favourite, I love being friendly, and generous love, each dimension fitting into and developing the others. With these qualities active and growing in your lives, no grass will grow under your feet and no day will pass without its reward as you mature into your experience of our Master, Jesus. I just don't think we should be afraid of coaching our children into those good behaviours. Where does the attitude spring from? What is the root of it? And helping them to grow in those things and coaching them and teaching them how to behave well. You might have that approach and have a bit of, but it's okay to be direct, but it's not okay if the root is something that is in unkindness or unfriendliness or is mean.
Absolutely. There's a lot there, isn't there, in that short passage, that I could just say that bit again, do that bit again, and just kind of be able to take it all in. It's incredible. Just the instructions, if we can pass that on to our children.
And then it enriches their life. No grass will grow under your feet. That the thought that there's a movement in that, a development in it.
I think as well for me, a big lesson to learn was coming to the triggers we were talking about. And I was really challenged to think, when I'm being triggered, it's almost as though I disempower myself. But the whole thing that I want about her, the thing I like and celebrate about a strong attitude, is that I want my daughter to be powerful. I want my son to be powerful. But I'm not behaving very powerful right now because I'm losing it. because I'm triggered, because I'm stressed about this.
Yeah.
And to raise powerful kids, we have to be powerful people.
Right.
And what really impacted me was realising that actually, when we do something wrong, God doesn't lose his identity. He never lost his identity when we sinned. He was still God.
Wow,
he was still perfect. He was still everything. And when the fall came and all that happened, and when we're sinning and when we're not behaving how we should behave, it doesn't impact the cross.
No.
It doesn't impact
That is
God.
really true.
It impacts us.
That's good.
And
That's
I
so
found
good.
that with my kids, I need to start thinking sometimes, it's not my problem, but I'll coach you through it. It's not me, it's you, but I'll coach you through it. And I would say there was a massive breakthrough in my parenting when I understood we are two separate people. And you are not impacting me and myself. I am strong in my identity. Just as God has taught me, because he's strong in his identity. My identity is rooted in him. And they're only 7 and 9, but I feel as though that's going to help me in 10 years' time.
Less than 10 years, Marina. Oh, yes. But no, it is. It will really help see you through those teenage years. It's kind of just not, it's that separation of knowing that your behaviour is yours and we need to teach them to own it. And actually our behaviour is ours. And when we do mess up, when we do cross that line, say sorry. But, you know, work on repairing that relationship. It's so important for us as parents to be able to kind of have the humility and the understanding to be able to say, look, I'm really sorry it got like it did between us earlier. Let's talk it through.
So valuable, that. Unbelievably so. I like that ownership thing that you talked about, the expectations. Like, we can hold our children so close that we suffocate them with ourselves rather than turning that around and facing them out towards their future about all that God's got for them. And that feeling like they're an extension of us, which they're not. They're certainly a part of us in terms of we are a family unit, but encouraging them to have their own identity gives them the ownership of their own behaviours and helps them. I mean, there's plenty of times when we do have to put the microscope on ourselves, don't we? And we are responsible for the way they behave. We have to put a mirror on ourselves. They are a mirror to us, the way that they behave. But not then that actually impacts our identity, like you said. I love that you said that.
Because if it's when we start to take their behaviour personally, particularly out in public, where we then experience that kind of shame and embarrassment, we take it upon ourselves, that we get kind of locked into something. Whereas if we're able to kind of see it in a much more open, I'm me, this is you, this is what's happened, let's try and make sense of it, let's understand it, and then we can move forward.
So much wisdom. I'm just digesting it all. I love it.
I am.
So good.
I think what would be really good to get some of these down, wouldn't it? Just pop them down onto the website. We should collaborate them. We've got Halt, we've got Place. We've got so much, and I love that. There's just so much wisdom in the Word of God, isn't there? When it comes to parenting, think how much we have a bad attitude to God at times. You know how easy it is to get frustrated with something. God, why isn't this happening? Why is this not doing this? Well, and it isn't always a place of passion. You know, sometimes it is a place of frustration, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like I've been further equipped to deal with the angry mornings. So thank you, ladies. I've enjoyed discussing that. And thank you as well for joining us. If you do want to head over to our website, it's promisecollective.co.uk. We'll have some resources there to tool you up for the next time your kid gets stressed and angry with you. In the meantime, thank you once again for joining us, and we'll see you shortly.
Hello parents, don't forget to say hello. We're at promisecollective.co.uk. Bye!